I will be explaining the movie, Love in Leashes. Ji-woo is an uptight opinionated woman that works in the PR department for a media company. While at the office lobby, Mr. Young catches her eye as he enters the building. She later proceeds to the department office where she meets her instant crush sipping a coffee while looking outside. His attention is drawn when the team leader Hwang calls and commends him on his punctuality as it's the first day of his reassignment to the PR department. The team lead officially introduces the two to each other before doing the same for the rest of the team. He has been transferred from the business department and will be the new assistant manager. Kim comments on how similar Mr. Young and Ji-woo's full names are, and how that will be confusing, but Hwang just shuts her point. To celebrate his arrival, he suggests they go out for team dinner, but Ji-woo alerts him that the corporate card is maxed out. She also brings his attention to a casting regarding a controversial YouTuber. The manager tries to dismiss her worries, but Mr. Young makes an impactful first impression by siding with Ji-woo and gives a solid reason why. This impresses the team leader, so he pairs the two together to make a list of potential people to cast. During their break, some admirers from his old department swarm around Young and give him a cup of coffee while they flirt. Kim comments on the thirsty women's behavior before asking Ji-woo if an eligible bachelor like Mr. Young meets her high standards. The uptight lady reveals that she's interested in him. While looking over, the two catch a glance at each other. Young quickly makes his way over and praises her for her quick thinking earlier before excusing himself. Kim advises her work friend to make a move and stop being a square. Later that night, her mum starts advising her on the best way to win Young's attention when she mentions how cute he is. The following morning, Young goes to pick up a package from the company mail room where it is revealed that Ji-woo accidentally picked up his package since their full names are so similar. A look of dread washes across his face as he rushes to the office to try and stop her from opening it, but he is too late. She shockingly looks at the kinky-looking collar before Young snatches it from her hand. He then badly lies that it's a leash for his 3-year-old poodle. Ji-woo apologizes for the mix-up before commenting that the size of the collar is a bit big for a poodle, to which he nervously gives another excuse. He retrieves his items, but when Ji-woo offers to throw the box out for him, he frantically demands to do it himself and knocks the packing foam all over the place. A coupon from an adult's toy store falls to the floor, and they awkwardly look at it for a moment before he quickly picks it up. During lunchtime, they both eat at the cafeteria where he chokes on his food when he overhears some audio talking about perverts. Ji-woo calmly watches on. That night, Young posts about his predicament on a popular BDSM message board. He's optimistic since Ji-woo hasn't told anyone yet, and even toys with the notion that she might be into that kind of stuff too. This would be exciting as he has not met anyone in the real world who's like him. Someone in the group warns him not to risk exposing himself. Meanwhile, Ji-woo goes on a night jog and comes across a BDSM shop. She glares at it while having a vision of Young using the toys on her. She snaps out of it when her mum starts to tease her about going inside. At work, he struggles to craft a message thanking her for keeping his secret, but accidentally sends it uncompleted when he sees her entering the same room as him. He puts on one of their mascot heads to hide his face just as she reads the message. While trying to hide, he ends up falling over and hitting his head, so Ji-woo offers to send him to the hospital for a checkup. After which, she questions him about the message, so he explains. She also apologizes for bossing him around earlier, stating that she tends to be like that. Young misinterprets it as her confessing that she too is into BDSM. He gets excited and his demeanor becomes more jovial as he pleads with her to shout, order him around, and even treat him like a dog.
What do you mean by that?
He continues ranting about how it was fate that they met at work and that they can be open about their tendencies. Ji-woo realizes the misunderstanding, explaining that her bossy nature is more of an insecurity than a fetish. It clicks in her mind again that the collar was not for a woman but for himself. She starts to read up on BDSM to try and understand Young. While at her friend's dog shop, she kind of explains the situation to her using the dogs as an analogy. Haimi advises her to give him space, so she does just that over the coming days. However, at the staff cookout, she comes across him crying by a car because of her cold behavior towards him. She explains that she doesn't think he's a pervert but just wanted to give him space. This makes him happy, so he asks officially that she becomes his master, but she rejects his proposition. During work time, Young is a model employee that all the girls like. Ji-woo watches on jealously as the girls flirt with him, so she decides to make a move. He receives a message from her instructing him to meet her in the office lounge. Young enters acting all official, but that changes when she hands him a blindfold, disclosing that she doesn't know about being a master but is curious to know. He excitedly puts it on while she locks the door before leading him to a seat. Ji-woo proceeds to ask him questions about why he wants her as a master, and after giving his reasons, she decides to think it over. One rainy day after work, Ji-woo comes out to meet Young standing waiting with an umbrella, but with some more persuasion from him, she agrees to be his master. Over the coming days, she does some more research on the relationship dynamics before drafting a contract. She meets up with him on the rooftop of their building where she outlines the rules. He is to call her Ji-woo and not master. She gives him a pair of glasses as a sign. Whenever he needs an order at the office, he must put them on. She presents him with the contract for him to have a look at before signing. It states that Jiwoo is the dom and Young is the sub, and he must respect and serve her to the best of his abilities. The contract is effective for 3 months from the date of signing. Neither party may terminate it without the other's consent. They will play at least once a week, and they establish the safe word dong dong to be used during dangerous or urgent situations during play. Things can get a little bit steamier upon the consent of both the dom and sub. Young assures her that he doesn't have any hidden agenda for her before signing. They later go to a hotel for their first session, which happens to be a simple dog play. Jiwoo treats Young like a dog, even presenting him with dog treats of him to eat from her hand. He pauses for a moment before driving straight into the food. He starts to get a bit too loud with his barking, which causes them to get kicked out. He drops her back home, where they awkwardly say farewell to each other. Later at work, Young confronts the team leader on a problem the PR department must address when Hwang is dismissive of it. As he storms off, the sound of him barking plays in Jiwoo's head. The two soon meet at the break room, where she apologizes for her performance, so Young suggests he plan their next play. He books a private reservation to a fancy restaurant to celebrate her birthday slightly earlier, but she blows out the cake before he finishes singing happy birthday to her. He then gives her a pair of expensive shoes as a gift, and although Jiwoo is appreciative, she doesn't feel like she deserves it. He helps her put on the shoes, hoping that she will ask to step on him. Young gets excited when she does just that by first pressing the heel on his chest. She orders him to get on all fours as she presses the heels across his back so that the marks can't be easily seen. The guy enjoys the intense pain and humiliation, and she loves the sense of power. After the session, Young checks the heel marks his dom has left on him while she replays the feeling of stepping on him while in bed. She later goes to Haemi's dog shop, where she superficially updates her on the relationship with Young. She advises her to tell him about her true feelings after assessing the situation. At a future team meeting, it is announced that the intern, Lee Han, has been promoted to a full-time employee, and Jiwoo has been assigned to be his mentor to Young's apprehension. The assistant manager listens in on her dictating to him while the newbie writes with a carrot pen. Meanwhile, at their next play, the duo experiments with candles, and in their subsequent sessions, Jiwoo starts to get a hang of things. Young continues to listen in on his master, scolding Lee Han when he makes mistakes. The assistant manager bumps into the newbie in the male's washroom, where he offers his assistance if he needs further support, but he confesses that he finds it sexy to be shouted at by Jiwoo. Young gets defensive for a moment, but instantly checks himself and tries to hide his frustration. Lee Han doesn't pick up on it and leaves immediately when he gets a call from his mentor. That evening, Young stays back at the office with Jiwoo, where he expresses his jealousy for the way she talks to the newbie. This triggers her to perform a spontaneous play where she duct tapes his hands and asks him to remove his belt. She comments on the thickness of the belt before lashing the table right next to him. This knocks some sweets and the carrot pen down. Young pleads for her to hit him, and if she can't do that, she should at least berate him on a high level, which she does. Jiwoo drags him across the office, hurling abuse at him, even breaking the team leader's back scratcher in the process of her tirade. It only comes to an end when the security guy hears the commotion and comes to check. They hide and run to Young's car, laughing when the coast is clear. The following day, the two exchange glances as Hwang comments on how the office was left in a mess the previous night and how his back scratcher got broken. Young later buys him a new one as he struggles to fix the old one. The couple later has another play where Young gets lashed for real. As Jiwoo tends to his wounds, he gets a phone call from his ex, Hana. He opens up, revealing that she dumped him when she found out about his perverted ways. Jiwoo asks if he enjoys the pain and suffering, so he explains that he puts on this prim and proper facade, but he's a total mess inside. This is why he enjoys the feeling of everything crumbling down around him. Her understanding of his likes makes him happy. The following day, the couple go on a date at a botanical garden where they handcuff themselves together. Haemi spots them while she waits for her date, but he arrives before she can pester the other couple. Young and Jiwoo try their best to hide the handcuffs from the public as they navigate. She even feeds him when they get food together, which other couples find romantic. Jiwoo decides to take a gamble and asks Young to date her for real, but he refuses. Before they can unpack the rejection, she gets a call from Haemi. It turns out that she too is into BDSM and her date is trying to take things too far. Jiwoo overhears her calling for help and quickly rushes their handcuffed with Young, but they arrive after she has already apprehended her attacker with her bondage skills. Haemi breaks down on the car ride home, complaining about the lack of good men around. It's her first time meeting Young and she approves of him as a partner for her friend. Later that night, Jiwoo replays Young rejecting her in her mind as she struggles to write him a message. She receives a notification alerting her that their contract is due to expire in the next week, which makes her feel even worse. Meanwhile, Young replays the day he was rejected by his ex for who he was, which seems to be a traumatic moment for him. Jiwoo seeks advice from the BDSM expert. Haemi explains that sometimes when the dom and sub get into a relationship, it can make things more complicated since the goal of a healthy relationship is to have a sense of parity and some respect. At work, other colleagues comment that the two don't seem as close. Young gets excited when she alerts him that they will do their final play during the upcoming day. She prepares the rope for the night while he prepares the food they will be enjoying as it will be hosted at his place. He hears his door ring and gets ready to meet his dom, but he's greeted by Hana, who's in a drunken state because she has broken up with her recent boyfriend. Young tries to get her out of his crib, but she begins to berate him again for his tendencies. He confronts her that he's too scared to date because of the things she put him through, and she feels the same too. Before she leaves, she throws some of the food on the floor out of spite. Jiwoo meets her outside the apartment and confirms her identity from Young. She gets to work and ties him up as they begin their final play. The two exchange a kiss for the first time, but it proves to be too much for Jiwoo, so she leaves and ends the play prematurely. Young poetically explains to Jiwoo that she's too precious for him to lose by risking a relationship with her. The contract has ended, but the two still yearn for one another. Young goes to Haemi for advice. All the while, Jiwoo goes for a jog and receives a message from Leehan warning her to be more careful as he sends the audio of her and Young during their office play. Unbeknownst to him, he has also sent it to everyone at the company. This becomes a big scandal as they are both suspended until further notice. Turns out that Leehan's carrot pen was also a voice recorder that he used to take notes. Jiwoo activated it when she struck it with the belt. Young tries to get hold of his master, but she's not interested. They finally meet again when they are summoned for their disciplinary hearing. The panel begins to make fun of them, which pushes Young to profess his love for Jiwoo to her surprise. The two leave their company building hand in hand, waiting to hear their fate. It is revealed that the pen kept on recording while on the floor and picked scandals involving more office staff. Jiwoo pleads with Leehan to help her leak them. Others get suspended too, forcing the company to keep her employed. Meanwhile, Young and Jiwoo decided to try a romantic dom-sub relationship. They revisit the dog play, this time with much more success as they profess their love for one another.